The third case in determining whether a relation represents a function or not is when we're given the graph of a relation. So let's say we're given the following graph. It doesn't have to be pretty. Here's our x-axis, here's our y-axis, and we're given the following a relation of x and y values. When we plot it on a graph, it looks something like this. It looks something like this. It's very curvy, definitely not linear, but this is just the relation of a various set of x and y values, and this is what it looks like when it's graphed. We want to know if this represents a function, and there's a quite easy way to do this. It's very simple. It's called the vertical line test. And what that means, what that test is if we draw a vertical line anywhere on this graph, is there anywhere that it crosses this line more than once? If it cuts through this relation more than once? And the answer is no here. There's nowhere on this graph that we can draw a vertical line and have it cut through this relation more than once, this graph more than once. So this means that we have a function here. And it kind of makes sense if you think about it in terms of being one-to-one. For a relation to be a function, it has to be one-to-one. And that means that for every value of x, or everywhere on this x-axis, we have a unique value for y. So anywhere that we see a value for x, we only have one value for y, and we can't use a vertical line to cut through it more than once. So it kind of makes sense. Let's do a few more examples. Let's say we're given the graph. We're given the following graph. Here's our y value, here's our x-axis, and the graph looks something like this. Let's say it cuts through here and here and here. We want to know if this relation of x and y values, when it's put on a graph, if it indeed represents a function. We can use the vertical line test to prove this. Is there anywhere on this graph that if we draw a vertical line straight up and down, it passes through this line more than once? And well, the answer is no. So what we have is indeed a function. This is actually a very special function, or vaguely looks like the function of sine. Sine just oscillates about the x-axis, and while that's not important here, we'll deal with it later on, and maybe we'll do a course on trig or on calculus, and we'll be dealing with that quite extensively, and you'll be seeing this a lot more. But this is indeed a function. We can't use a vertical line to cut through this relation more than once, or more than any more times or any more places than just one for each x value, and it just doesn't pass through it more than once. So kind of makes sense when you think about it. Let's look at a couple more. Let's say we're given the following graph of x and y values. This relation looks roughly like a circle. Okay, we can use the vertical line test to prove if this relationship or this relation is a function. Is there anywhere on this graph that we can draw a vertical line and have it pass through this relation more than once? And actually the answer is yes. We can draw one right here, we can draw one right here, we can draw one right here. There's lots of places that if we draw a vertical line, it passes through this relation that looks like a circle more than once. It passes through twice here, twice here, twice here. So this relation fails the vertical line test because the line crosses more than one point on the graph. So this is not a function. Not a function. There's nothing wrong with it. We actually will still use it later on when we get to our calculus courses and our trig courses. We'll actually be using something that looks like this extensively. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not classified as a function. Let's look at a few more. Let's say we're given the graph. Here's our y-axis. Here's our x-axis. And our relation looks like this. Looks like this. Cuts through the origin, keeps going up. We want to know if this relation is indeed a function. And we can check that by using our vertical line test. Is there anywhere on this relation that crosses through this relation more than once? And well, the answer is no. There's no vertical line that we can cut through straight up and down, cut through this line more than once. So this is indeed a function. This function is roughly the function of x cubed. When you graph x cubed, it would look something like this. So keep that in mind. Let's do a few more. Let's look at the graph. Let's look at the graph x-axis and y-axis. And we are given the relation that looks something like this. It's kind of a funny looking relation. And there we go. Okay. We want to know if this relation of x and y values is a function. So we can use the vertical line test to find this out. Is there anywhere on this graph that we can draw a vertical line and have it pass through this relation more than once? And well, the answer is yes. There are actually several points that violates the vertical line test. You know, we can draw vertical lines pretty much all day and have it pass through this relation more than once. So this means that we do not have a function here. The relation is not one-to-one. We're getting more than one value for each x value. That makes it not a function. Let's go ahead and look at one more. Here's our y-axis, here's our x-axis, and we are given the relation that looks something like this. Okay, it's all in quadrant 1 and 2. All the y values are positive here, and we want to know if this is a relation or if this relation is a function, and we can use the vertical line test to prove that. Is there anywhere on this graph that we can draw a line straight up and down that cuts through this relation, this line, more than once? And the answer is no. There's nowhere we can draw a vertical line and have it pass through this line more than once. So this is indeed, the relation is one-to-one. For each x value, we have a unique y value, which gives us a function. Okay, so that's the third case where we're given a graph and a graph of a relation, and we want to find out, we want to determine if it's a function, and we have a special test to prove that. It's called a vertical line test. If we can draw a straight vertical line up and down, and it passes through our relation only once, then we have what's called a relation of one-to-one, and we have a function. If we draw a vertical line through the relation and it passes through it more than once, like it does here, like it does here, passes through twice, actually in several places it passes through twice, our relation is not one-to-one. We're getting a unique, or we're not getting a unique y value, we're getting several different outputs for each x value we plug into our relation, and it's indeed not a function. So practice this a few more times. It's very intuitive, not very difficult at all, and I'll see you soon.